Good evening, dear students. Thank you very much for having joined me so early. Let's just wait for a couple of more minutes, all right? Just in case your other classmates are also going to join the class and we can start together, okay? Thank you very much, anyways, for being early, all right? Let's just wait for one more second. All right, fantastic. Let us start. Thank you very much for having joined me. I think, as I was mentioning, I was waiting for the rest of your classmates to get into as well, but I guess in this case, just all of you are going to be the students joining this introductory class. As I say, anyways, it's merely introductory, but it's going to be very much appreciated by you, I think, especially for permeating yourself with the different aspects we're going to be discussing today. All right, thank you very much, then. Good evening to all of you. Let me introduce myself. First of all, my name is Carlos Oliveira, and I'm going to be your teacher, all right, for the following weeks. It's a pleasure and also an honor to be with you tonight and having this opportunity to or to help you and guide you through this process, right? Let me tell you right from the beginning that I know how set to be in your shoes because I know this exam very well. I have taken it twice in my life, and I have spent a lot of time preparing myself as well for this exam. And I know all the pressure you're also feeling, and maybe it's going to be a process, not only in the preparation but also in the practice you're going to have for the exam. That is going to cause a lot of anxiety in your persons. But let me tell you that is normal. And I think that certainly what I can tell you is that the motivation um, behind this exam, that is to say, the reason why you're taking it, is certainly what must be your priority, and also what must be your engine, let us say, in order for you to continue, even when it's going to be difficult for you in the future to to avoid getting arrested and continuing with the exercises that we're going to be learning. All right. So just wanted to say that it's been an experience that I have also had an experience by myself to be preparing for these courses. So let me tell you that certainly this is a very much rewarding process when you understand the exam. And as we are going to be talking actually tonight, a little bit later, I think it's certainly that dream and that I want you to tell me that is behind the exam, what is going to motivate you to continue and continue, even when the sections are going to be very much demanding and overwhelming at some point. All right. But nonetheless, thank you very much for joining me. All right. So for those of you who have just entered the reunion, we're just going to comment today on general aspects about the exam and also our classes. All right. So let us start. Of course, I have prepared a presentation for you. So let me share my screen with you. And let us start with that presentation that is going to help us to be discussing, as I say, these general aspects that I want you to know about the classes and also of the exam before we get into the actual learning that is going to start from tomorrow on. And as you maybe observed in the message that I sent to the WhatsApp group, the first section that we're going to be analyzing and discussing is going to be the listening section, but let us comment that later. All right. So I just wanted to welcome you. Thank you very much for having chosen us. I think it's a pleasure. I want to welcome you to Executive English. And I wanted to say that you are joining a very, very huge family, because until this point, more than 10,000 students have trusted us. So I think it's it's actually very good to know, right, that you are joining a huge family of a lot of people who have gone through these classes, and I'm also very much content, with the success of many of my students in the exam. And not only an executive English, right? I mean that when you get into this, let's say, journey towards the exam, TOEFL exam, you're also joining a very, very much huge and enormous family, considering that this exam is very old. The first time that ETS, we are going to be discussing what ETS is, by the way, but the first time this exam was released to the public was in 1964. So imagine, calculate, right, make your own calculations, how many people have taken this exam during these years. It's overwhelming to think about that. But with regard to Executive English, that is a Bolivian company, we can say that since 2017, when this company was founded, I think that a lot of people have gone through this process as well, just as you're going to be doing right now. And it's a pleasure to welcome you. All right. Thank you very much for having chosen us. So now, what else? Let me change here the slide. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to discuss with you was the, let's say, the policies for our Zoom classes, right? Because this is something that the company has decided, some rules, let's say, not of course to take them very seriously, but nonetheless some guidelines, right, that are going to help us to maintain order and also, let's say, the normal development of our classes. So very important that all of you, of course, from the next class on, are going to be required to have your cameras on, all right, during the classes. And this is a, certainly mandatory measure because, according to our understanding as a company, we consider that if you have your cameras on, you are going to retain way more the content that I'm going to be delivering and that you're going to be receiving. Of course, for today's class, it's fine if you cannot turn on your camera. I understand it's an introductory class and you were not, of course, notified about this, but nonetheless, please, okay, beginning with tomorrow's class, it's very important and necessary for you to have your cameras on. All right. By the way, this is not a threat. What I'm gonna say right now, it's just, again, one of the policies of the company. If you're not able to have your camera on for a while, maybe because you're having some technical problems, etc., I'm gonna take you out of the class just for a while, and then you can please join at every single point you want, right? Because if you have seen in the WhatsApp group, I sent the link, right, to the Zoom link to today's class, and that link is always going to be sent 1 or maybe 30 minutes, 1 hour or 30 minutes before the class starts. So maybe if I take you out because I see you without the camera on, you can come back at every single point you want, right? It's not, as I said, not something to take seriously or not a threat. Please don't take it like that's just, as I say, a company that a policy that the company has decided, and they may have their reasons, right? So it's better just to tell you, all right, very important to have your cameras on beginning tomorrow's class, and that is going to be a very important factor in our classes, all right? Thank you very much for having listened to this, right? I think it's very clear, this matter and stuff like that. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Let us continue then with the order slide. All right, so now let us get into the classes themselves. Let us discuss, well, that our classes are going to be, as I mentioned as well, I think in the WhatsApp message, from Tuesdays to Fridays. Today's class, that is on Monday, is just for today, all right? It's not something that is going to be repeated, as I mentioned. This is an introductory class, but, well, let's say starting next week, yes, next week, certainly, your classes are going to be from Tuesdays until Fridays, all right? Just in case you're not confused, and of course, maybe thinking that classes are also going to be on Mondays, is not the case. We're just going to have classes from Tuesdays until Fridays, all right? Now, what about let's say the organization, or let's say the structure of the classes? Here at Executive English, we have a blended model of learning. That is to say that you're going to have received classes on 2 different aspects or areas. First of all, theory, of course, and also practice. Because I think that many people make so much emphasis on practice, especially when coming to the TOEFL exam, that they forget that a good understanding of the topic you're going to practice is essential for you to develop and perform correctly. So we're going to have some classes that are just going to be theoretical. They are going to be held, especially on Tuesdays or Thursdays. Although, trust me, we are going to be always changing and modifying that with, of course, with relationship to, let's say, the advance we have with relationship, maybe to the doubts or concerns you may have at some point during the classes. Maybe you are struggling a little bit more with a particular, let's say, topic or subject. So, of course, we're going to be staying there for a while, clarifying some mistakes, some doubts, and of course, we're going to have more theoretical classes, or actually the contrary, right? It can be also possible that if you are very good and you understand the concept, you're going to have more practical classes. But as I say, it's going to be a combination of them, right? But normally, our classes are going to be theoretical on Tuesdays and also Thursdays, and practical on Wednesdays and Fridays, all right? Just in case you wanted to know, let's say, the composition of our classes, this is going to be the model, okay? But as I say, this is not something like a rule. This is, let's say, the constancy, but nonetheless, it's not something already defined. We're going to be varying and changing this according to our understanding of the different topics and of your situation and, of course, your performance, all right? Just in case you want to take notes maybe of this to have it clear, all right? Fantastic. Let us continue. I'm going to have some time for you to ask questions, by the way, so don't worry. Just give me a second. I want to continue. All right, fantastic. So let us discuss, all right, all right, dear students, what is the TOEFL exam to begin with, all right? Maybe this is something, of course, you already know, maybe a little bit redundant, but just in case you were not aware of this, TOEFL, it stands for Test of English as a Foreign Language, all right? And as I mentioned, this is a very, very old exam, which was first released in 1964, all right? And by the way, the company that organizes and administers this exam in a world level is ETS. It's a very famous company. It's this one, as you can see here. Maybe you have heard of it already. And this company actually is basically related to this business of examinations and standardized tests in many other, let's say, examinations. They also collaborate with the SIT, if you have heard about it, with the GRE, the Graduate Report Examination. They are basically involved with this with this war, let's say, of exams and examinations and tests very much, right? So very famous company, ETS. Now, with regard to the TOEFL exam, of course, this is an exam that is going to measure your level of English. By the way, something that some people ask me, can you, let's say, is it possible to approve the exam or to fail in the exam? No, it's not possible. Why? Because there is not an approval grade or score in the TOEFL exam. As we're going to be discussing, the TOEFL exam is, as I say, basically a measurement of your English level. That is to say, you cannot fail in the exam, all right? But what you are basically experiencing is that the TOEFL exam is like a spectrum. You know what is a spectrum, right? It's, let's say, a parameter. You have 0 as a minimum parameter, and you have 120. 0, if you, for example, of course, nobody gets 0 in the exam, but nonetheless, let's say in the hypothetical case, somebody is terrible at English so that he doesn't understand anything, he will get a 0, okay, in the TOEFL exam. Now, if the person performs very well in the 4 different sections of the TOEFL exam, which are, by the way, reading, listening, speaking, and writing, of course, if the person performs perfectly, he's going to get a 120. And in the middle of those scores, the minimum 0 and the maximum 120, of course, you can also be placed into. That is to say, you can get 80, 90, 100, 75, 100, 105, 110, depending on your performance, all right? But as I say, it's not possible to approve or fail in the exam because there are no such approvement or failure scores, all right? Such a thing is not possible in the TOEFL exam. What the TOEFL exam does is to measure, okay, measure your level of English. And that is the reason why this exam is so popular and so well appreciated by universities and different companies, as we're going to be discussing, because it's not something like, let's say, you are going to, I don't know, for example, maybe when you were in high school, it was like you studied day and night for something just for, I don't know, for one day or 2 days, and maybe you succeeded in the exam, but later you forgot it, right? You forgot the topics, you were not actually very good at it. In this case, in the TOEFL exam, what the result of this exam is going to be is that you are going to be receiving a very much accurate description of what your level of English is, all right? And not only you, but also the institutions that are going to be receiving your score. And of course, you're going to be choosing, right, which institution, university, company receives, let's say, a report of your performance. But they are going to have a very, very good picture and understanding of how your level of English is, all right? Now, the TOEFL exam, as I was mentioning, is a very, very old exam, and it has different modalities, okay? That is what I wanted to discuss before we get into the, let's say, into a time for you to ask some questions. There are some modalities or versions of this exam, and I want you to be aware of it, all right? So the first version and the most common one, okay, and this is going to be probably the one that you're going to take, is the IBT version, that stands for Internet-Based Test, the TOEFL IBT version, all right? This version of the exam, as I say, is the most common one nowadays. Now, how does this work? It works in the following manner. So you go to the website of ETS, right? Because as I told you, it's like ETS is the company that organizes everything. So let's say you go to ETS, to the website of ETS, and here it is this website, by the way. Here you get into the website, right, of ETS. Well, basically you log in, right? Of course, if you don't get, if you have not gotten an account yet, you create an account, you log in, and here in this website, that of course we're going to be discussing this later. You're going to be registering yourself for the exam, enrolling yourself for the exam, and if you're going to take the IBT version, something very important is that when you register yourself for the exam, apart, of course, from paying your fee and registering all your information, etc., what's going to happen is that you are going to be choosing a test center. Let me explain what is a test center. A test center is a place, let's say it could be an institution, it could be a university, it could be a high school, actually, it could be a building, any place where ETS has, let's say, sent some delegates from their own company, some delegates that are in charge of, as I mentioned, delivering and releasing the exam to different test takers, all right? So in every city of the world, or in every country of the world, maybe to be a little bit more general, there are some available test centers. Of course, test centers are not, let's say, are not very much varied, or I mean, you're not going to find 10 or 15 test centers in your city. That is very unlikely. But what is going to happen is that depending on where you live, if you live in Bolivia or in any other country of South America, in your city or in your country, you're going to find at least one. All right. So if it happens that you have, let's say, more than one test centers, but as I say, the test center can be everywhere. It could be a university, could be a high school, could be a building, a company. The point is that it is a place where ETS has, as I mentioned, sent some delegates that are going to be delivering the exam, taking care of it, making sure that nobody's cheating on the exam, organizing everything, delivering material, everything you may need, right? When you find these different test centers in your city, if there are more than one, you have to choose one. You have to pick a test center for you to go to that test center in person on the due date of the exam, all right? Because it's very important. Those are going to be the two things you're going to be choosing. If you take the IVT version, you're going to choose, first of all, the date and also the test center. Both the dates for the exam and the test centers are things that ETS decides. By the way, you are not actually, let's say, having the capacity to go and program an exam whenever you want. No, it's not the case, sadly. But ETS defines those dates, and depending on the availability, on the availability of the test center and also of the due dates for the exam, then you're able to choose from the options and from the possibilities ETS gives you. All right. So you choose, as I say, a due date. Let's say you have, let's say there is a possibility to take the exam in 1 month, and you have two different test centers. So you choose the one you consider to be the most comfortable for you, and you choose these two things, and you are enrolled in the exam. You're registered for the exam for the IVT version. All right. What happens next? So when you are registered for the IVT version, and you have chosen your due date for the exam and also your test center, when the day comes, all right, when the due date comes, then you go to the test center, as I mentioned, in person. And as I mentioned, some delegates, some staff members from ETS are going to be receiving you, and they are going to take you to a computation room. Listen to that. A computation room in which you're going to be delivering and performing your exam. Now, how is going to be your exam? Your exam is going to be through a computer. And that is the reason why this is called, I wanted to come back here, IVT version, internet-based test. The reason is because everything on the exam, you're going to be taking it through a computer. The reading passages in the reading section, the audios in the listening section, when you have to speak, because in the speaking section, of course, you are required to speak, to talk, you're going to be recorded through a microphone that is connected to a computer. And as well, in the writing section, you're going to have to type on a keyboard your essays as a response for the writing section. So everything that is required for you to do on the exam is going to be done through a computer. All right. That is the reason why this is called internet-based test. And of course, it requires internet, but don't worry about it, because if you are taking the IVT version, the test center is going to provide you with everything, with the computer, with the with the different components of the computer, keyboards, mouse, microphones, as I mentioned, headphones, internet, that is very important, and also technical support. That is to say, if something goes wrong with your computer on that day, you just raise your hand. Somebody from the delegates of the company, ETS, is going to come, is going to help you, and they can, of course, let's say, help and fix, fix, I think it's the most accurate description. They can fix your problems, and or they can change you into another computer. Maybe if the problem is too, let's say, unsolvable, they can just change you and move you through to a different computer. Now, as I mentioned, these are all the benefits and characteristics of this exam, all right? If you are taking the IVT version. That is the IVT version. Then you have another version that is very similar to this one. You have the PBT version, all right? The PBT version, as you can see, is, it stands for paper-based test. And basically, the paper-based test is exactly the same in the IVT version with regard, for example, to the registration, to the enrollment, to what you have to do. You have to choose as well a due date, depending on the availability of the contents in the in the website, or let's say in the, yes, I think it's a website, right? Certainly, or on the internet, of course, in the authorized and verified website of ETS. depending on the availability of the due dates for the exam and also of the test centers, you choose those options and then you are enrolled for the exam. Now, you also go, by the way, if you're taking the PBT version to a test center in person on the due date, you arrive there, people are going to be waiting for you, everything is the same. Now, what is the difference? That when they give you the material for you to take the exam, you're going to notice that here you're not going to be using a computer anymore. Everything is going to be, as you can see, on paper. The reading passages they give you for the reading paper, for the reading section are going to be on paper. The listening section, you're not going to have a computer or headphones in order to listen to what the speaker is mentioning or expressing during the, I don't know, during the lecture you're required to listen to, or any other material. You're going to have some sort of device, I don't know, like a speaker in the room you are going to be placed into, and that is the way you're going to listen to the lectures or to any other content they give you for the listening section, but you're not going to have headphones, as I mentioned. When the time for speaking comes, you're not going to have a microphone, let's say, included or attached to a headphone as you have in the IBT version, but you're going to have probably, I've never taken the PBT version, by the way, but you're going to have a more mechanical device like a voice recorder or something like that. And for the writing section, you're going to have to use your hands. You're going to write down your essay with your hands, right? As you were probably doing in high school, you're going to write down your essay with your own hands, all right? So as you can see, the only thing that changes between the IBT version and the PBT version is basically the medium or the means by which you take the exam, all right? That is the only difference between these two modalities or versions of the exam. But now, there is one more. Maybe you were wondering that. There is one more version, and it's actually very similar to the IBT version because it's, let's say, it's a variation of this modality. And this was very recently, by the way, because this edition just took place since the pandemic. And this is called the Home IBT edition, all right? Look at it. It says you can take it at home also. Is the Home IBT edition. It's basically, as I mentioned, also the same for the registering processing, for the enrollment is the same. You choose a due date depending on the availability of the due dates for the exam. And also, of course, well, in this case, not a test center. Why? Because you are not going to be going to any place in order to take the exam if you go for this version, all right? If you take the Home IBT version, you are going to be taking your exam at home with your own computer, all right? This is, as I mentioned, very similar to the IBT version because you're going to take the exam through a computer. You're going to read your passages on a computer, listen to it through headphones, etc., microphone, and typing as well for the essays. Now, what is the problem with this version? Maybe you are thinking, well, this is wonderful. Why should I take the IBT version when I can take it at home? Why should I take it in other place with the strangers when I can take it at home? Well, this modality has its disadvantages and, well, let's say threats or dangers. And I would say that what worries me the most, at least to me, for this particular version is that you don't have technical support. That is to say, if something goes wrong with your internet, because as I mentioned, you are going to use internet, that is your problem. ETS is not going to be there in order to help you. You need to fix it if you lose your time, because it's as maybe many of you already know, this is a chronometer exam. You are not having, let's say, the entire day for you to finish all these sections. Every single section, as we're going to be discussing, has its own time and due time. And if you basically exceed that time, of course, the software is just going to take you directly to the other section, even if you have not finished what you had to do, right? Your material, your responses, that's, well, ETS basically doesn't care about that. They just care about delivering the exam as it is planned, and you are the person who needs to fulfill your duties in the different sections correctly. Now, as I mentioned, if you have technical problems with your computer, there is going to be somebody to help you if you're taking the IBT version, this one. But if you are at home, nobody's going to be there in order to help you. If your internet goes wrong at that time, your problem. If, let's say you, for some reason, move something in your computer and your recording is not listened to, you don't have nobody to complain to because, as I say, everything is your responsibility now, all right? And also there are difficulties. For example, for the IBT version, something very important, by the way, dear students, just in case you wanted to know right from the beginning, that we are going to be learning about is that during this exam, something tremendously important is learning how to take notes, because notes are, I would say, indispensable matter for this exam. Why? Because you need to take notes in order to remember all the content you're going to receive. Because let me tell you, during the exam that normally, let's say, lasts for 3 hours and a half, that is, well, more or less the common in general duration of the TOEFL exam, 3 hours and a half, you're going to receive a lot of material, reading sections, passages, articles, listenings, audios, lectures, let's say, well, conversations, a lot of things, right? So you're going to have the necessity, of course, to have a recording of what you're listening to, reading to, and in order to do that, ETS allows you to take notes. Actually, if you're checking the IBT version, they give you everything you need in order to take notes. They give you sheets of papers, pencils, erasers, etc. And you can take your notes on paper if you're taking the IBT version. But now, if you're taking the home IBT version, you are not actually allowed to take notes on paper as you would normally do it, not only in your own life, but in the IBT version as well. If you take the home IBT version, you're going to have to get, all right, by yourself, a whiteboard, a desktop whiteboard. You know what is a whiteboard, right? Una pizarra blanca de escritorio. This one's like, I mean, when you were in high school, maybe your professor used one of these ones, whiteboards with erasable marker, right? In order to, of course, maybe write down something on the board to teach you mathematics, whatever. But in this case, you are not actually allowed or permitted to have a very, very long whiteboard as the ones that maybe your teachers have. But you need to get a desktop whiteboard, that is to say, a very, very little and small whiteboard. And there is where you're going to have to write down your notes. ETS is not going to allow you to take your notes on paper. Maybe you're saying, but they are not going to be looking at me. Yes, they are going to be through the webcam. Of course, they are not going to let you alone in order to take the exam. But through the webcam you have on your computer, you always need to be, let's say, directed and placed before the camera, because if you are, let's say, disappearing for a matter of 5-10 seconds, they're going to cancel the exam, they're going to ban you. But nonetheless, you need to always, as I say, be visible for them. So you have to take your notes like this, and you have to erase, of course, because it's a very small desktop whiteboard. So you need to, of course, write down something, erase it, and do the process again and again and again. So all the different versions have, of course, their advantages and also their dangers and threats. As I say, it's up to you to decide what version to take. It depends as well also on the availability in your own country and city. Maybe in your country and city, the IBT version, the PBT version, and the home IBT version are all of them available. So you can pick. Of course, you can choose the one that you consider to be the most beneficial for you. Nonetheless, maybe your city or country, just the IBT version is available, maybe the home IBT version as well. The PBT version is actually very rare because this is an exam designed for people who live in Africa. Mostly because, of course, in Africa, there are some troubles sometimes with the internet, very, very poor countries, right? So that is the reason why this, let's say, version was invented. But nonetheless, if the version is available in your country, city, and you want to take it, well, of course, that's up to you. You can do it. Actually, I think the fees for the different versions and modalities do not vary very much. It's a matter of preference, of, as I say, considering the advantages of every single version, considering as well the disadvantages, the dangers, threats, and making maybe an analysis and choosing the one you consider to be the best for you, right? So as I say, this is something that you can choose, and you're going to determine by yourself, depending, again, on the availability that ETS has for your country. Always direct yourself to this page. Is ETS, I think it's etseducation.com. Let me see. Yes, ets.org, www.ets.org. I'm going to paste it on the chat box if you want to check it out right now. Here it is. Right, there you have. So get into this link, and you're going to find, as I mentioned, the ETS website for you to see what is going on in your city, country. All right, fantastic. Now, I want to give some time here for you to make questions if you have any about the different versions, modalities that we have learned about during this time. Do you have any concern, anything that I could clarify? Please tell me. I'm going to be delighted to help you. Is there any question to your students about the different modalities of the exam? Anything about the organization, how to register, anything? Miguel, Jorge, Adriana, Sergio, Alondra, anything? No questions, dear students? You're fine? Yes? Right. Fantastic. I guess you are fine then. You're very clear. Fantastic. Let us move on then. Right here. So now, why should you take the TOEFL exam? This is a very good question. Maybe, again, a little bit redundant. I'm so sorry. Because, of course, you may know until this point why you're taking these courses and also why you want to take the TOEFL exam. But just in case, the TOEFL exam is helpful for mostly three different regards or matters. First of all, for being accepted into a international university. If you are planning to apply to, let's say, an American university, a British university, any European university, this exam is valid. That is to say, if you want to, of course, because when you study in English-speaking country, of course, certainly they want to make sure that if they accept you into their institution, of course, and very much, even more if the institution is prestigious, they want to make sure that you are going to be, let's say, on top of the situation in order to learn and to understand all the material they are going to be delivering, right? So they want to make sure you are able to understand, to have conversations with your peers, with your professors. And the way they make sure of that is basically by looking at your, as I mentioned, TOEFL score. Because again, there is no an approval or failure qualification or score, but this is basically a parameter, it's a spectrum. Minimum qualification, 0, maximum 120. So if you get an 85, they know, right? Okay, it's a good level of English, depending always, of course, on the criteria the university is using. Because, for example, for the best universities of the world, let's say Harvard, Yale, I don't know, Princeton, they always expect to receive, let's say, applicants having at least 105, right? And if they have more than that, until the maximum qualification that is 120, better, certainly. But it depends on the university. For some universities, and also depending on the program you are trying to apply to, undergraduate, graduate, PhD, master, well, a lot of options, right? You know, there are a lot of options for education. And the career as well depends on if you want to go for, I don't know, some engineering, you want to go for social sciences, let's say for literature, it also affects how much the university is going to require you to get, all right? But something I wanted to clarify, all the universities across the world, around the world, are always going to accept the exam, okay? So I don't want you to have that concern of maybe if I take the TOEFL exam and if I send this score to my university, they are not going to accept it. It's not going to happen. I can assure you that because this is the most famous and reliable exam in the entire world in order to measure people's level in English, all right? So it's not going to happen. In every single country, I remember actually the statistics is more than 175 countries in which this exam is accepted. So think about it, right? You are going to be having, as I say, the approval of the university that this is an accurate and also reliable manner to test and to be aware of your English level, right? Second reason, scholarship. You know this, right? Not only applying to universities, European universities, American universities are very much expensive. And in order to study there, obviously the best applicants and students of the world always go for scholarships, and especially if they are full, right? Full scholarships. So if you want to stand out from that very very much long and vast group of applicants, you need to stand out by different manners, right? And one of them is to show that you are very much proficient in English. So you send your TOEFL score. If it is good, you are always going to have more chances to get the scholarship. Third reason, getting a job. Maybe you are somebody who wants to work remotely for a European company, but nonetheless living in South America, Central America. Fantastic. How is this company, if it is placed in an English speaking country, going to know that you are somebody able to communicate with your colleagues, with your boss, with your coordinator? Well, they need to know that you are able to communicate proficiently in English into or with regard to the different communication channels we have, right? Speaking, writing, also, well, actually reading, right? Because it's necessary to reading and to transmit that information But as I say, they need to make sure you are able to communicate and to relate in English. And how do they do that? Well, by the TOEFL exam, right? So these are mostly the three. These are mostly the reasons why people take the exam. All right. Of course, maybe some people take it for personal realization. Fantastic. I have had many students who just want to take the exam because they want to show themselves or to prove themselves that they have actually learned this English language, and they want to have, let's say, a certification that is international, reliable, of how good they perform in this language. Fantastic. What is better, right, than having confidence, knowing that you are good at something? Well, you need to, of course, take a test, take an examination, and this is one of them, right? Fantastic. Now, let's get to know each other, all right? Very important before we move on with the last part of the presentation. I want you to know, okay, about all of you, your city, where you live, your name, of course, why are you taking these courses, and something very important as well, do you need a specific score in the test? Remind that these two last questions are very important, because why are you taking the course? Side thing that I mentioned in the very beginning of this presentation, something that is going to motivate you, even when this content gets a little bit difficult in the future, is that engine, that motivation you have in order to take the exam, the dream behind the exam. So I want you to comment, not only to me, but to your classmates as well. Why are you taking this exam? What is that dream that is behind the exam? What is motivating you to take the exam? And also, do you need a specific score? Maybe you have already making some research about this. How much do you require in order to get to the university you want to apply to, or to receive a job offer, something like that? Tell me about it, okay? Of course, I'm going to start with that. Let me, where's that? Let me start, of course. It's obviously the professor, the one who starts, right? So let me start by introducing myself a little bit more so you can know a bit more about me. All right, fantastic. As I was mentioning, my name is Carlos, all right? That A stands for Andres, my second name, Carlos Oliveira. As I was mentioning, I have taken this exam twice in my life. The first time I took it in 2020, and the second one I took it in 2021, all right? As I mentioned you, I have spent tremendously a tremendously considerable time in preparing myself for this exam. And I was actually talking with my sister the other day, and she told me, have you realized that you have been studying for this exam, or the majority of your time in these last 2 years, you have been studying for this exam? And I actually got very much, surprised and overwhelmed by her declarations, because I think it's true. So I know this exam very well, and as I say, I know what is it. How does it feel to be in all this pressure and participating in all this stress with regard to the exam? So please just know that I understand you, right? And can guide you, and I will, of course, do my best in order to guide you through this process and to tell you the things that I would have liked somebody to tell me when I was also going through this process, right? So I think that is something very important, that I would have liked to have somebody to tell me a lot of things that, of course, I learned by practice and experience, but nonetheless, I'm going to be here to help you with that and to tell you the things that I would have liked somebody to tell me when I also took the exam. So as you can see, my scores have been 100 the first time I took it out of 120. And the second time I took the exam, that was last year in 2021, I got 110 out of 120. All right. So those are my scores. As you can see, I have managed to, well, for example, how difficult is it? Maybe you're wondering, to get 120, because 120 is the maximum qualification. I was actually reading, an article published by Scholar Prep. Have you ever listened about that website, Scholar Prep? It's a very famous website, especially for people who are applying to American universities. Maybe if you are in that process, you have listened about it. And they have published an article some months ago, and they made some sort of statistics and research about how difficult is it to get the maximum qualification, like 120. And they say that just 5%, okay, 5% of test takers managed to get more than 105. I'm going to repeat, just 5% of test takers managed to get more than 105. That is to say, if you get more than 105, you're going to be part of that very, very little percentage of the world who has managed to get more than 105. So why I tell you this? Because when I started my process to prepare myself for this exam, I remember that I took a simulation. By the way, you are also going to have the chance to take 2 different simulations, actually. I'm going to be talking about that later. When I took the exam, this simulation, the first score that I got was 70. And because of that, I was so overwhelmed and, I don't know, thunderstruck by that score that, of course, was not what I was pretending. That it just, started to polish my technique, to improve some aspects of my English, because as you're going to be able to see, it's necessary to improve some aspects of our English, especially academic aspects of our English, in order to succeed in this exam. So, of course, I'm going to be guiding you through that. But nonetheless, as I say, it's very possible to improve your score exponentially. So that's the reason why I mentioned you about all these statistics and my scores, is because I want to, let's say, to encourage you, to motivate you, to say that it's possible to improve very much exponentially in this exam by getting the technique and also by improving those aspects of our English that are necessary for us to polish and perfect for this exam. All right, fantastic. There you can see a little bit about me. Boring thing, awards, stuff like that. I am a law and system engineering student, by the way, about to graduate. And yes, and maybe in my free time, what I like to do the most is reading. Maybe just in case you wanted to know, reading and playing also with my Rubik's Cube. You know what is that? Rubik's Cube? No, this puzzle. I like to solve that as well in my free time. Fantastic. Now, please do tell me, where are you from? Oh, by the way, I'm from Bolivia, from Santa Cruz, actually, from Santa Cruz de la Sierra, Bolivia. And yes, that's a little bit about me. Now, what about you? Okay, do I have some volunteers to start with the introductions, or do I have to to pick up people and start with to say into a sign who's going to start? Any volunteer to start with the yes?
May I start, Carlos?
Please, of course.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Miguel Paulsen. Well, my full name is Jose Miguel, but I prefer to be named Miguel. I don't know if you can hear me well. I think I have some problems with my internet.
No, don't worry.
Okay, great.
Dear Miguel. Continue.
Okay. I'm from La Paz, Bolivia. I'm petroleum engineer. I have graduated 2018. And after that, I have been working for the Bolivian government in the National Hydrocarbon Agency, specifically within the drilling field. So we are in charge to supervise the drilling process of well oil and gas oil.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, the main purpose that I want to take the TOEFL is because I want to apply for a scholarship and maybe some jobs in the foreign country.
Yes.
And moreover, I'm aiming a 100 score or maybe 90. I already got the simulation, and I got a 73 score in that.
All right. Yes.
And that basically that will be.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Miguel. Very, very interesting. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Whoa, incredible. You are working then for the government. Pleasure to meet you. And fantastic that you are trying to apply to foreign countries, scholarships. And yeah, certainly, it's a very, very good objective to somehow expand, right, your let's say your spectrum of work to different companies abroad. Fantastic, dear Miguel. I think that we're going to be working together, right, in order to achieve that 100 that you're trying to get, that you're aiming to. And it's a pleasure, Miguel. Thank you very much for starting with the introductions.
Oh, thank you, Carlos. I think it's my pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, dear Miguel. All right. So who goes next? Jorge, Adriana, Sergio, Alondra, or should I pick someone?
Hello.
Jorge, yes.
Yes. So my name is Jorge Alberto Rodriguez Benitez. I am from Santa Tecla, El Salvador. And the
Fantastic.
reason that I want to take this course, the TOEFL, is because I'm applying or starting to apply to a university abroad, specifically in Belgium. And the main motivation that I have is that because I studied something that's not very important in my country, which is agricultural biotechnology. So I studied my bachelor here and I want to study my master abroad and hopefully work abroad because my career has no future here in this country. And my score, I'm not entirely sure if I understood it correctly from the university that I'm trying to apply, but I think that I need at least 72, I think.
All right.
That's what I
Okay.
understand.
Mhm.
And that'll be it, I think.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Jorge. A pleasure to meet you, El Salvador. Fantastic country. I've always listened wonders about that country. I've never visited, but incredible. Thank you very much, dear Jorge. Yeah, it happens, that sometimes what we like, right, what our passion is not very much appreciated by others. Nonetheless, very ironically, in other countries of the world, people do appreciate, right, what we do. So, of course, it's a natural inclination to apply and have the desire to travel to these countries and to perform our passion, right? So, fantastic, dear Jorge. I think it's a very good motivation, a very good engine. So keep it up. Don't worry that we're going to be working in order to attain that 72 or, of course, higher. That we always have to aim something higher, right? So fantastic. Thank you very much, Jorge. A pleasure to meet you. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Adriana, please could you continue? Adriana Guzman with the introductions.
Sure, no problem. Good night to everybody. My name is Adriana Guzman Quiroga. I was born in Cochabamba, but I lived in La Paz my entire life. I'm 25 years old and I'm working at Moreno Valdivieso Intellectual Property Office. I'm a lawyer. And well, I'm taking this course because I want to apply to a master degree in another country. So I think I require a high score for the applications, and that's it. I think so.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, dear Adriana. Well, so we are colleagues then. If you're already a lawyer on studying laws, but about to finish, but fantastic. Pleasure being a lawyer.
Yes.
But yeah, certainly it's like especially I think that the reason why you need high scores because law, let's say law programs in other countries, especially in America, are very much significant careers, right? So that just the best people get into them. And I guess that is the reason why you're aiming in a very, very high qualification. But nonetheless, trust me, it's possible to get a good qualification. And of course, we're going to be working in order to attain that. All right, dear Adriana?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. No, my pleasure. Okay, so let's continue with Sergio. Sergio N, please, could you continue?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, certainly.
Hello to everyone. I am Sergio Nogales. I am from La Paz City, and I am taking this course for, I want to specialize myself in Europe, and I want to take a master degree, and I need, I think, an 80. But personally, I want to be a part of those 5% of 100 or 120. And yes, that's it. I want to specialize myself overseas and for a master degree. And I hope this course will help me a lot to reach that goal, right?
Yeah, certainly, dear Sergio. Yeah, I think that it's as I like that attitude, of always going for something that is, let's say, higher than the expectations other people have, right? Or maybe our own expectations, right? And certainly it's possible to get more than 105 or more than 110 and to be in that very much a small percentage of people who manage to succeed in this exam at that level. But yeah, fantastic, dear Sergio. I think it's a pleasure then to be with you. And we're going to be working. We're going to be working very much in order to attain that objective you have. And as I see you very much decided, I think it's at least the motivation is there. All right. So we're going to be working. Thank you very much, dear Sergio. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much to you, Carlos, and a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you very much. Fantastic. So Alondra Pacheco, please, could you continue?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Alondra. I am live in Santa Cruz. I need to take the TOEFL EBT exam because it's recommend for study in another country, in
Yes.
specific in Canada. I am biochemistry. I went study post-graduation master in Canada. I knew enough of 90, not, but I am improving day by day my English language. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Alondra. Okay, fantastic. Pleasure to meet you. Canada, yes, Canada. It's certainly one of the top countries for people, for applicants, basically, especially from South America, right, and from Africa. When you want to specialize and to make a master degree, to, of course, right, to get better opportunities for your job, Canada is one of the, of course, of the favorite and preferred options. So certainly, thank you very much, Alondra, for sharing that with us. So yeah, we're going to be working for that, and I like the fact that you said you're trying to improve day by day. Fantastic. I think that is exactly what we are also trying to do, right? And I have noticed actually that there is something that somehow unites us all. I mean, all the students and also my person here, is that when we want to take the exam, we had a dream, right, behind it. And it was also the case with me. I'm not sure if I told you this, but the reason why I took the exam was because I received a scholarship from the American Embassy in Bolivia in order to apply to American universities. And basically it paid for me all the process application, excuse me, the application process, the application process and all the fees that are necessary. You know, this is a very expensive exam, by the way. You know, it's $190, I think. SIT, essays, translations, a lot of things. And yeah, I was also planning to study my undergraduate and my graduate in America. Sadly, it was not possible because of financial aspects at the end, but nonetheless, the dream was there, and I at least I managed to fulfill one of my dreams. That was to, you know, to apply, right? That was not many people apply either, so it's it was a dream come true. Anyways, thank you very much, dear Alondra. Thank you very much for having commented a little bit on your situation and your aspirations as well. Thank you very much. So finally, we're going to end with the introduction round with Anaí. Anaí, please, could you introduce yourself?
Good. Hello, everyone. My name is Anaí Quesada. I am from Loja, Ecuador. And the reason that I'm taking this course is because I want to apply for a master's degree too. And I don't need a high score specifically, but I would like to have a high score in that test. And I'm so happy to meet all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Anaí. Yes, fantastic. Ecuador. Again, one of the countries I would love to visit in the future. I've heard wonders about it. But incredible. Thank you very much. And yes, a master's degree. And yes, I like the fact that you also, again, I think it was as one of your classmates, that although you don't need to have a very high score in order to, of course, demonstrate yourself that you're able to, you want to get it. And that's fantastic. I think that is certainly the attitude that we are aiming. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Anaí. Pleasure to meet you. All right, so there we are. Thank you. I think that we have had a very good time knowing each other. And now that we have started with this, let's say, family process, because at the end, we're going to be a family. Trust me. The point is that we are going to move on to the last aspect of this presentation. I know that you have to go. Don't worry. Just give me just 5 more minutes in order to finalize this. Look at this slide here. This is the basic composition of the TOEFL exam with its normal order, all right? When you get into the exam, as I told you, normally the exam overall longs for or basically lasts for 3 hours and a half. All right. So when you get into the exam, whether you're taking the IBT version or you're taking maybe the home IBT version, whatever, you're always going to start with the reading section. Look at it. The reading section is always the first section you're going to be facing and confronting, and that section is going to last for 60 to 80 minutes. I want to explain why is there a possible variation in the duration of this particular section and of the listening section as well, later on the class, so don't worry about that. But the point is that normally 60 to 80 minutes is the average time that you're going to spend reading and responding to the questions in the reading section. All right. Now, after you finalize with the reading section, you go immediately to the listening section. Right. There is no rest after you finalize the reading section. You go immediately to the listening section. The listening section is going to be the second section you are going to be facing, and that is also going to last for 60 to 90 minutes approximately. All right. So that is going to be, let's say, the first part of the exam. And after you finish the reading and the listening section, you're going to have a 10 minutes break. I repeat, you're going to have a 10 minutes break, which means that you can go out because, by the way, if you're taking the IBT version, of course, you are, as I said, introduced to this computation room, and you cannot go out until you, let's say, come to this part of the exam when you have this 10 minutes for break. All right. If you're checking the IBT, the home IBT version, of course, you can go to the bathroom, but just for those 10 minutes, because if you are out of the visual spectrum of the person who is going to be looking at you through your webcam for more than those 10 minutes, of course, are going to be banned from the exam and canceled. Okay, after you finish your 10 minutes break, you come back, and then you're going to start with the speaking section. Now, as you can see, is the shortest of all the sections in the exam. 20 minutes, all right? 20 minutes is going to be all you're going to have for speaking. And you're going to see that is going to be a huge trouble because in all your responses for the speaking section, you are not going to have more than 1 minute to speak. I'm going to be explaining that later when we arrive to the speaking section, but this is certainly one of the most difficult sections for test takers. But we're going to be talking about that. I have some techniques of my own that I'm going to be teaching you, so don't worry. Finally, you come to the writing section. That is going to last for 15 minutes, all right? Here's the part where you write down your essay, you use your keyboard. Here, I would say it's the more relaxed and calm part of the exam because you're just writing and you're about to end, right? So when you finish all this, you're going to come out with 3 hours and a half, approximately 3 hours. That is going to be the time, of course, depending as well on your performance, if you have some technical issue, etc., right? But this is the normal composition of the exam. 4 sections, just 1 break, all right? Fantastic. Finally, I want to show you not this here. Look at this. Here I have prepared the calendar for our classes. So we are right now in the week number 1. And during all this week, the topic for our classes is going to be the listening section, all right? Everything we are going to discuss is going to be the listening section, the theoretical aspects, the practical aspects, everything about the listening section, how to approach it, how to take notes, how to put on the headphones correctly, everything we're going to discuss it this week, right? Next week, we're going to get into the speaking section. As you can see, the speaking section is actually divided into different parts in our classes. So the second week is going to be for the speaking number 1. The third week is going to be for the speaking 2 and 3. The fourth week is going to be for speaking 4. And at that point, we're going to start with another section that is going to be the writing 1, right? In the 5th week, we're going to have the writing 1 and writing 2. And finally, the last week, we're going to have the reading section. As you can see, in all the 6 weeks we're going to have classes, you are going to receive preparation for every single section of the TOEFL exam, all right? Of course, making some sort of emphasis on the ones that we know are more difficult. As you can see, the speaking section and the writing section, but nonetheless, the listening and the reading are also going to be approached, and you're going to receive preparation for everything. Also, of course, I'm going to be sending some material to the WhatsApp group for you to practice in your free time, etc. And but yeah, so this is the basic calendar we have for the following weeks. All right, so you can maybe take a picture, whatever you want. Fantastic. Final thing before we go, this is the final thing. There is something very good in this class. Something that I love actually about our company is that you are going to have the opportunity to have 12 15-minute calls with me. These are going to be one-to-one, or let's say personal calls, in which you're going to have the opportunity to practice, as I mentioned, one-to-one just with me for the speaking section. We're going to have here at the company, we have a simulator that is prepared with a lot of material for the speaking section, just as it is going to be in the exam. So you have the chance, as I say, to reserve with me 12 different calls of 15 minutes in order to practice and discuss just the speaking section, apart from the normal classes you have and that we have mentioned here in this calendar, right? How can you reserve these personal calls and to access these personal calls? You can do it by our website, that is executiveenglish.education.com. But don't worry about that. Why? Because after we finish this class, I'm gonna send to the WhatsApp group a document with all the instructions and the indications you need in order to reserve and to create account into create an account into our website, to reserve these personal calls, and of course how to access them. All right. But basically, as I mentioned, you're gonna have the chance to have these one-to-one calls just with me, in which we're gonna practice for the speaking section. You have the opportunity to reserve up to 12 of them. All right. And as I mentioned, you can dispose your time as you prefer, of course, considering as well the availability of the website, because there are some specific times in which you're going to be able to reserve. And if you also have free time on those, let's say, available times in the website, please reserve. And I'm going to be getting into the soon, as you're going to be able to see. And we're going to have this one-to-one practice for the speaking section. Okay, this is just for the speaking section, by the way, not for other sections, but just for the speaking section. All right. Fantastic. So that is all. Final thing as well. Right now, I'm going to send to the WhatsApp group material for you to practice two things. First of all, I'm going to send to the WhatsApp group 2 simulations of the TOEFL exam. I please ask you to take one right now, that is to say tomorrow or whenever you prefer this week, in order to see your level. Okay. You're going to have the indications as well in the document I'm going to send, in the video, in the video tutorial I'm going to send, and also an exercise for connectors. I guess you know what connectors are. Basically, words that help us to connect different sentences, right? Whether they are independent, they are dependent, they're complex, simple. Connectors are very important, okay, for these classes. So you're going to have the opportunity to practice and to get a certificate, actually, in order, well, when you finish this this particular material. Okay, so everything, all the instructions for reserving these calls, all the instructions for getting into the 2 simulations, all the instructions for receiving your certificate when you finish your connector courses, everything, I'm going to send it right now to the WhatsApp group. Okay, so don't worry about that. You're going to have all the information on the palm of your hand. All right, fantastic. Is there any question, your students, about what we have discussed tonight? Anything that I can clarify?
Sorry, Carlos. I
Miguel,
don't know
yes.
if you have spoken about this before, but like I said before, my internet connection was not really good. But what about if we're not able to attend one class? Is the class is going to be able to see later for us, or not?
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much for the question, dear Miguel. It's actually very good that you have reminded me about that. As you can see right now, the class is being recorded, and the class right now is not being streamed to YouTube because your YouTube channel has not been created yet. But in the following classes, the coordinator for our classes, that is called Ruth. Maybe you have known her already. She's in the WhatsApp group, by the way. It's called Ruth. Ruth is going to create a YouTube channel just for you. That is to say, we're going to have a YouTube channel just for this group of the classes. And all the classes I record, I'm going to be streaming them directly to YouTube, right? So that even when you are not able to attend a class, you can rewatch it as much as you want in the future, okay? That is going to be, as I say, uploaded to a YouTube channel that we are going to be letting, we're going to be giving to you, or we're going to be sending to you, and you're going to be receiving it later. Okay, but just give us a matter of maybe 2 or 3 days. But from now on, all the classes are being recorded. Actually, this one is being recorded, so don't worry about that, dear Miguel. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
My pleasure. There you have. So that's it. Any other questions, dear students?
No, I think that's fine.
Fantastic. Final thing, every single class, before we finish our classes, I'm going to be, okay, taking your assistance. So please don't go until I take your assistance, because at the end of the classes, as you of course are very much knowledgeable about, you're going to receive a certificate, right, from an American institution that you have attended these classes and that has curriculum value. So in order to receive that certificate, please, it's very important to be present in the classes, right? So I'm going to take your assistance in order for you to receive that certificate at the end of these classes, all right? So please listen to your name. I'm going to take your assistance right now. And every single time before we finish the class, there is also something that's going to be happening. You are going to be filling a poll, okay? And this poll is anonymous. That is to say, I cannot see who responds what, who says what, all right? It's an anonymous poll that is going to ask you what you thought about the class, all right? If you consider it was well planned, if I was able to respond to your questions, all right? All of that, please, you're going to be able to express yourself about and to respond to that, okay? So I'm going to be, of course, delivering the poll right now, releasing it right now. And please, okay, of course, you know that you help me a lot by filling it positively, but as I say, it's anonymous. So please, this is part of your own consideration, okay? So please, I'm gonna launch it right now. Look at your screen, please, your students help me with the poll and listen to your names, okay? When I call you out. Let's see, where is this, where is this, where is this? Here. So is here present, is here present Guzman Quiroga Adriana?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you very much. Adriana, what about Zúñiga Sergio?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you very much. Sergio, fantastic. What about Alondra Lisette? Yes. I saw you, I saw you. Thank you very much, dear Alondra. Yes, thank you very much. What about José Miguel Quiroga?
Here.
Thank you very much, Jose. And finally, Jorge Alberto Benitez.
Here.
Thank you very much. Is there somebody lacking in the list?
I think me. I didn't hear my name. So,
All right. Please, could you tell me your name?
Anaí Quesada.
All right, Anaí Quesada. Fantastic. I guess maybe the coordinator forgot to write it. Don't worry. I got it already. Thank you very much, Anaí. There you are. Fantastic. So we had a full house today. It's a wonderful thing to have it like that. All right. Thank you very much for your responses, your students. And as I say, I'm going to be seeing you tomorrow. Okay. At the same hour, we're going to have our first class. And this is going to, of course, be very much important. And I'm going to send a lot of material to the WhatsApp group. So please don't get scared. Okay. But practice it, do it with your own time, disposing of your time. Thank you very much for having joined me. Okay. See you tomorrow. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you very much, Carlos.
Goodbye.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank
Goodbye.
you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.